Hey, I'm Matthew Finlan. I play Ezra in Hell of a Summer in theaters now, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So I'm so excited to be joined by today's guests. Today I'm talking to Matthew Finlan, which you can see in Hell of a Summer, where he plays Ezra. It's also in Ghosting Season 2, which is out now as well. Thank you so much for your time today, Matthew.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me, Pat. I'm excited. We can really get into it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Really excited to talk to you about both of these projects. I want to start off first actually with Ghosting because I love shows like Ghosting, all the paranormal type of stuff. I'm a big Halloween horror fan ever since I was a little kid, so I've always had an interest in this. I'm curious for you, how did this get started for you, the series Ghosting? How did it begin?
We are cut from the same cloth, Pat, because I'm exactly like you. I grew up obsessed with all of these shows. In fact, I don't know, are you based in Canada or you're
So I'm in
stateside?
New Hampshire. Yeah.
Okay. So here in Ontario, we had this show that was called Ghost Trackers, which basically took kids and threw them in haunted places and
Jeez.
see if they could find anything. So I grew up being like, oh, I want to be on Ghost Trackers so bad. And that basically turned into a love of things like, Shane and Ryan with their BuzzFeed Unsolved and, Ghost Trackers and TAPS, the Paranormal Atlantic or the Atlantic Paranormal Society. We all know them. And so, yeah, it just seemed like a true synergy of things just coming together. Luke, the creative partner, being such a skeptic, myself being such a believer, and kind of like a hodgepodge investigator myself. Just like, you watch these shows and you learn by proxy. They all use the same tools, same methods and techniques. So Luke and I eventually found ourselves in San Francisco, and making a real long story short, we tried to get to Alcatraz, but we couldn't. And then by the time we made it to shore, we were just killing ourselves laughing, thinking about what if a pair like us went into a location like that. And he was like, "Do you even know what to do?" And I'd be like, "Of course I know what to do. We need an EMF detector. We're going to need an SLS camera, a REM pod." And then it just so happened that our friend Bacola Ayoka was also with us in San Francisco. And the rest is history because she got to be our first guest on episode one, season one. And it felt so fitting because she was there when we came up with the idea to bring her to be part of the pilot episode. So, yeah, I think,
Full circle.
when you're a kid, really lean into your interests because you never know. You never know when they're going to pay off.
Yeah, and so what was it too, I guess just like about the world of the supernatural and the paranormal that you found so fascinating?
I grew up in doing plays and like community theater. And they say that every theater has a ghost, and most of them actually still have the ghost light that they'll put on stage. That
Yeah.
I always think of like the Magic School Bus, that episode with Miss Frizzle. And I think that as a kid, I was just fascinated because by putting on a ghost light on stage, it is in a way respecting the spirits and kind of saying that they're real. And so I think as a kid, I was like, wait, so they are real? Is like this actually true? And that sort of led this fascination with everything other. And then I will also say, trigger warning, the house that or the family that owned the house I grew up in, their daughter, she took her own life in the house. We know this to be true.
Wow.
And so every October, my mom, they still live in this house. God bless them for doing it. But we always swear that every October there is like a heightened sense of activity or energy. And so growing up in the theater, in that house, and just, being attuned to something other, I think that always just made me believe that there's something behind this thin veil of reality. And, I mean, it's entertaining. In the end of the
Yeah.
day,
It's fun.
whether you believe in ghosts or not, everybody has an opinion, and that's what matters.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I grew up always kind of believing in this, but I was actually talking to Krista recently, who you worked with
Okay.
on both.
Yes.
And I was just telling her this story about when I was high school, it was like freshman year, I think I was, and I went out to the Seacoast area here in New Hampshire, and they had these old World War. Actually, I always forget this like what war they're from, the bunkers, but they're very old. And we
Okay.
go out there. You go inside, you can't see anything at all, so you have to have flashlights or else it's pitch black. So we got brand new flashlights, brand new batteries. We went in there. We get into there because there's all kinds of different rooms. There's like graffiti all over the walls, candles like that you see that people have been in there. And we get into this one room and we got in the center of it, and all of our flashlights go out at the same time, and we couldn't get them to come back on for like a good minute, and then they all popped back on at the same time. And me, even being a big Halloween horror fan, I was kind of like, okay, well, I think it might be a time to get out of here. So that was like my confirmation that I always had a feeling, but that was my confirmation moment for me.
That's insane. That's insane. That sounds made up. And the best stories always sound made up. And it's only if you experience them that you know that they're true. And I, as someone who has experienced my own sort of movie moments, completely believe you.
Yep.
And it's insane. And there's also something I'll say that I learned on ghosting that teenagers specific, and this is like scientifically researched, teenagers going through puberty attract more poltergeist activity. There is something about the hormones and the aggressive energy. So I do believe
Interesting.
that kids, specifically teenagers, have an ability to tap into that type of energy that does manipulate objects and energy like that. So the flashlights, that does make sense.
That's really fascinating. I
Yeah,
never
I
knew that
know.
was a thing. Hmm.
Neither did I until I just, ghosting, you look up, it starts with like poltergeist. That's a weird word. Where does that word come from? And then you learn it's German for noisy ghost. And then you do a little more digging. You're like, oh, there's actually been studies done on like why objects fly in kids' bedrooms. And it's been tapped back to like kids going through a divorce, adolescent teenagers, and then also women going through menopause, a little bit there. So I don't know. I'm not a genius or an expert on that topic at all, but there's something to it, and I think we have to recreate that moment with those flashlights, Pat. We have to go back. That's
Yes,
all
yeah.
I'm saying. We need to go
We're
back to those bunkers and we need to test it.
Hey, I'm always down for a ghost hunt. I think that it's a lot of fun. And speaking of, I mean, you guys, congratulations. You guys got season two of the series. I watched the episode with Krista. I got to go and watch all the episodes now with you guys. What did you guys kind of want to build upon from what you did with season one coming into season two?
So season one, we get to investigate locations a lot closer to home in Ontario. And mind you, Ontario is huge. It's massive. It
Yeah.
has a second time zone in it. Not a lot of people know that. Um, but season two, we get to go cross country, coast to coast and ghost to ghost is what I always say, because we really do. We go all the way up to the Yukon. So we're right beside Alaska. And then we travel all the way off the shore of Newfoundland and Labrador to this tiny little island with less than 2,000 people on it. So everywhere in between, we're hitting not even just like Canada's best, but I would argue some of North America's best haunted locations as we go across. And it's just you can't complain. We're going into like a 400-year-old mine under the Atlantic Ocean. You're bound to find something. Or we're going all the way to the Klondike Gold Rush, to the Caribou Hotel that anybody who went to look for gold stayed there. Or we're staying in a castle off the shore of, British Columbia. It's like the energy in these places are so palpable that we're going to the greatest hits. Basically, we're playing the greatest hits of these artists, and you can't help but love the music because it's like, of course, So that's always what I say. It's the buffet of the greatest haunts across the country, and we are just really lucky to investigate these places. Sometimes like whether a ghost shows up or not, which I think they always show up. But even if they didn't, I pinch myself and I'm like,
Just the
how did we find
experience.
these locations? Yeah, it's insane. Like
Yeah.
we really are the first team to investigate, I'd say at least half of the locations this season, which is incredible. We talk with other paranormal teams and they they ask us, how did we get into these spots? And we're like, we don't know. We just asked nicely. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty impressive because there's a number of different paranormal shows, investigators out there. So to be some of the first ones to explore some of these locations. So I have to ask you, Matthew, what's been the scariest location that you've been to so far?
Hmm. Okay, the scariest location, I'm gonna say the scariest location might actually still be one that's from season one, which we went to one of the oldest jails in North America called the SDG jail with Frankie Grande and his husband Hale. We thought, what would be funnier than four gay guys in a jail? You know what I mean? And it's a pretty big hoot. What was so terrifying about that spot, though, is they hung. It has it's one of the last sites of public execution in North America, and they know for a fact that there are just hundreds of bodies buried in the surrounding property
Wow.
because when they went to make the parking lot, they excavated like dozens of bodies, and some of them were infamous serial killers. So that location from season one just was so creepy. Season two, I would say that the aforementioned mine on Bell Island, was insane. It was just, we were the first team to ever investigate it. It's the most well-preserved mining operation in all of North America. So the whole island is just tunnels and tunnels and tunnels, all connected. We just were investigating one tiny little tunnel. So you get the sense while you're down there that someone's watching you, something's there with you. And I've told this story a couple times, but while the cameras weren't rolling, both, or myself, the director, and our first AD all separately described seeing a floating light moving up and down in the distance. And it's supposedly the light of the miners on their helmet
Oh
walking up
yeah.
and down the main shaft. But none of us knew the other had seen it, and we all separately described it. And it just gave me the chills. It was insane. Insane. I have never experienced that. That was my movie moment. The flashlights turning off
Yeah.
altogether and then turning on because it wasn't a firefly. There was no light source. It was moving on its own up and down. And that was exactly what people described before we went. And when you hear that, you're like, yeah, right, a floating light. Sure, I bet, buddy. But you see it and you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
There's no explanation. So it's pretty crazy. That
No,
was
it's
yeah, and you ask like what's the scariest? I think when I get scared, I get really excited. So that's what happens. I'm afraid, but I'm like I feel vindicated. I'm
but
like it's real.
it's super creepy too that you guys were all able to describe the same thing and you hadn't told the other person too. So that's when you know it's real too, because it's not like, oh yeah, you like the other person had said, oh yeah, this is what I saw, and you guys knew that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that definitely gives me the chills. But same thing, I love that. Do you have, I guess, like moving forward, do you have like a bucket list of certain places that you haven't got a chance to explore yet that you're just like, I really want to go there?
There are a lot. They come up and people send them to us too. They DM the account, which is awesome. We love it. Um, Funny enough, a lot of the places when Luke and I rhyme off, there are spots in America that we really do want to check out. I think it's what is it, the Westminster Mansion? Is that am I saying, or the Winchester?
Oh yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah, that's huge. That's on our list. I would love to get to the Salem Witch Trials, anywhere there that we could
That's right
explore.
by me. It's
I
about an hour-ish away.
Okay, so we'll definitely need your help looking at some places. Funny enough, there are witch trials that took place in Quebec too, so or Montreal around there. We want to look in. But even Lizzy Borden's house, that would be
Yeah.
really cool to get to. And of course, Alcatraz, the place that started it all. If we could get there, that would be amazing. But if we're staying in Canada, there's a place called the Kingston Penitentiary. It's actually called the Alcatraz of the North. We tried to get in there for both seasons, actually. Apparently, there's lead poisoning, but
Jeez.
I think we could just wear masks for one night and it'll be
Yeah,
totally fine. Yeah.
totally fine. No, but yeah, I mean Salem's great. I would say if you guys, it does get insanely busy once you get into the fall season. So like late September, October, it gets absolutely nuts with the amount of people that are there.
Yeah,
But
we need to go off peak, off
yeah,
peak.
it is a lot of fun. But the Lizzy Borden House too. I went to that a couple of years ago now, and they were explaining how you can spend the night over there, and the amount of people that they've had stay the night and leave in the middle of the night, just and they don't get a refund on at staying at the place, but they just leave it in the
Really?
middle of the night. So I was like, oh man, I want to stay, and I asked a couple of my friends, and about a couple of them were like, oh yeah, do it, and then the other half were like, yeah, not a chance in hell that's happening.
No, we would be so down because when we shot the proof of concept, it was a haunted Airbnb. And so we stayed overnight and we have the footage of us like in our bed with like, the Blair Witch style. And we're planning on doing that for the actual show, but it's only 22 minutes. So you can only put so much in it. But yeah, we would love to stay overnight at the Lizzie Borden. Also, I feel like the Hell of a Summer poster is a little bit of an homage to her. Do you know what I mean? With the
Yeah.
act.
Oh, with the axe. Yeah. And speaking of Hell of a Summer too, so you got that film that's out right now. So you've been very busy. I got to see the film on Friday. I'm a big, I said I'm a big horror fan, slasher fan. Had a lot of fun with this one. I just love like the slasher genre in particular. So it seemed like you guys had a blast making this movie. What was it like? Did it even honestly feel like you guys were working, or did you just kind of feel like you were just at a summer camp and having fun with this cast and crew?
I think yeah, when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
And it's very true. We from night one to the even when the film wrapped, the cast we rented out on Airbnb in Montreal to spend even more time with each other. So we the love was palpable, and we had such a blast. Like honestly, there was not a night that we wouldn't stay up to watch the sunrise, go to 7-Eleven, grab snacks. And so I do think that love comes across on screen. You see the camaraderie. You just feel like these people have known each other for a lifetime, which is a hard thing to do when you just show up day one and you have to all of a sudden play best friends, or even like lovers. But luckily, none of us had to be lovers in this movie. So that was a little bit easier. But yeah, such a joy to shoot. We all stayed at an Airbnb together, so it was just wild. So lots of fun.
And you're someone who's had experience outside of acting, done writing, producing. So you have experience behind the camera or behind the scenes. So I'm curious where this was Finn and Billy's directorial debut. What was it like working with them? What did you kind of take from that experience of collaborating with those guys that you think is going to be valuable to your future moving forward in the film industry?
I mean, working with them was an absolute delight. They not only did they do such a great job of combining comedy and horror, but I also thought they did an excellent job moving in front of and behind the screen. Because you see, they're in the movie quite a lot. So
Yeah.
to jump in front and back, and sometimes they're even in the same shot. So I'm like, man, you really do have to A, trust your DOP, director of photography, but then you also have to just sort of it's a mind game. Set it up, shoot other people in it, and then swap out and go. So I thought they did an excellent job there. And I really do think, I mean, we touched on it, but something that Finn and Billy did really well as producers and creators is they brought together an ensemble and made the ensemble feel the love. And that is something that not every project does, for lack of time and lack of resources. But as you've commented on, and so many reviews, I think also do touch on this too, that camaraderie is felt. And so it was a direct reflection of them. Like literally night one, we made friendship bracelets. I was on set the very next day at 6 a.m. and there was a part of me at midnight being like, "Shay, is this the best decision to be making a friendship bracelet? I don't know if I should." But I was like, honestly, let's do it. We have to. And we literally all are wearing them throughout the movie. And just the fact that they were able to create that team throughout the whole project, because, week one, fun party time. Week two, okay, let's go. Week three, you're a little bit tired of each other. It's like a family road trip. Week four, you got to rally, push the curtain, and bring it home. So if you can
Yeah.
have joy throughout that whole month that you're together, that's a real testament to the crew you've assembled.
Yeah, I remember being like when I was younger and didn't know as much as kind of went behind the scenes of how films were made and things like that. I always used to wonder when someone was a director, but they were also in an episode or also in the movie. I'm like, how does that work? They're directing, but they're also in the project at the same time. That always used to blow my mind when I was younger.
No, so true. It still blows my mind.
Yeah.
I think some people do it better than others, is what I will say. And,
Yeah.
you really have to trust your team when you're doing that. Everybody, everybody. And they brought together a great team, not just cast, but crew as well. So, yeah.
100%. And for this next question, Matthew, I'm gonna say spoilers, guys. If you
Okay.
haven't seen the film, make sure to just jump. I'll put a little thing up when I edit the video too, that there will be a little spoiler warning. So make sure just for this segment, if you haven't seen it, click off and then come back once you're done. Because I wanted to ask you about your death scene in the film. Because I'm always
Mhm.
curious just what goes into filming those kind of scenes. Can you just talk about filming that? I'm sure it must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Ezra's death was crazy. And what's even crazier is that we only got two takes at it.
Oh, wow.
And so they put a prosthetic here because my character gets an axe in the head. I would say, the axe that's on the poster, that's the
Yeah.
axe that goes into my head. And so Yeah, they put a prosthetic here, and there's a tube that's running down my neck and down my back and out my pant leg. And Eric, who was in charge of like special effects, he's just pumping it with like the same kind of thing you would use, I think, to put like pesticides on your lawn. So it's a pressurized thing. And the first take they did it, it kind of was only trickling a little bit. It didn't nail it. It didn't look great. And so they were like, we need to go again. And I'm on my knees. I'm just there. I'm just trying to get into the zone because we're on a summer camp. We have a limited takes. I know this. So I'm like, okay, just be ready when they call go. Just be ready, be ready, be ready. Let's go. The camera gets into position. Erin, our makeup girl, she's cut a little slit more into the prosthetic. And sh as soon as she does that, it waterfalls. There's no stopping it. We got one costume, one take, one thing, and everybody goes like, "Oh no, okay, it's time, let's get it rolling." Everybody positions and action. And so Chris, the DOP, he starts spinning the camera around. We're looking, the blood's flowing, they're going, they take the axe out, and then you don't hear it, but they're literally like, "Okay, Matt, you can fall out of screen." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I fall down, but we only got really, there were two takes, but that was the one take that we actually got. And the blood literally, I didn't know it at the time, but runs over my eyeball. Like it goes
Uh,
into my eye and keeps going. And I just knew I was like, you don't blink. You don't blink because if you have an axe in the head, and you can't really train for that. But I was
that's
assuming
tough.
one would keep their eyes open probably. And even if you don't, I was like, I want to keep my eyes open. I think that that would look crazier. And yeah, when I was done, I got up and it was like, did we get it? Did we get it? They were clapping. I was like, all right, let's go.
I know you're
I
always
will
so
say,
worried.
one of the scariest things actually in real life happened after that because we're filming at a boys' camp. So I go to the shower and I like literally am showering at this abandoned camp. And what I didn't know is that the lights in that locker room were motion censored. So halfway through my shower, all the lights turned off. It was pitch black. And I'm like, hello? And nobody answers. And so I had to, in full Monty, feel my way through the dark to the very front of the locker room and like turn the lights back on and get back in. That was the creepiest moment. I was like, oh, I'm gonna die for sure. This is Final Destination now meets Scream because we're filming a movie. I'm in a movie. I just shot my death and now I'm actually gonna die. I was like, this is too meta. I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, this is getting a little too real for me. Krista was she was saying something about, I think it was, if I remember incorrectly, she said something about a basement that she thought was probably legit haunted because it just kind of felt creepy down there. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure this camp where you guys filmed that's probably been around for, I don't know the filming location, but it's probably been around for a while, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The backwoods of Ontario, there's always something hiding there. There's always something in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had kind of talked about how we're both big horror fans. So I was going to ask you, like, what keeps you coming back to the genre? Because one of your previous projects that you did was Orphan First Kill. And I wanted to ask you about that experience just a little bit as well, working with Isabelle Furhman, because we got a new Orphan that's going to be coming out
I
sometime soon, the next like
know.
couple of years. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I'm a big fan of that franchise as well.
Well, filming Orphan was a dream come true because I remember going to theaters, seeing the original, and being like, wow. So then when I found out that I had booked the sequel, I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And then when I found out Isabel was reprising her role, I was like, slap me across the face and call me silly. Like, this is insane. Like, we did the table read, and I remember like getting mad at Esther, and it was actually Isabel. And I was like, this is insane. This is just like
What
few
is my
moments
life?
compared to this. Yeah. No, and that was amazing. And what keeps me coming back to the genre is like horror. I mean, I think it's my bone structure. No, there's something about it that just says he's rich and he's killed people. Uh, I think what I love about the horror genre is it takes chances um, on fresh talent, fresh
Yep.
stories. And there's also something inherently combined about like a queer audience and a horror audience. And I think that maybe that's because fear is the great neutralizer across all boards. Everybody has a different definition of what love is. So not everybody's going to love the Hallmark movie unless it's been specifically tailored to you, or, the rom-com. You might be like, I don't really see that. But when you are running away from an axe murderer in the middle of the night at a summer camp, it doesn't matter what faith you practice, what body parts you're attracted to. You are running for life and death, and everybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
And I do think there's sort of like a common denominator that really does bring everybody together, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
And I also think that the genre is something that can do a lot with a little. You know, Blair Witch Project is one of my favorite movies, and it's like tried and true found footage to this day. It will never be beaten because it's in a league of its own. And you just look at that and you're like, wow, that really did change the genre with like what? How much? Like literally, that movie was made for what, $15,000? Like I don't even
Yeah.
really know. It was like as an infinitesimal budget. So I just think it's really exciting. You never really know the ultimate fate of a horror project that you're part of because it's going to do really well or maybe it's going to do really bad. The script sometimes is amazing and then you get there on the day and you're like, oh, we're using that kind of blood. Oh, that's how we're doing it. Or it's the other way around. You're like, I didn't know how we're doing this scene. And then you shoot it and you're like, that's so fucked up. Oh my God, it's insane. You know, I
Yeah. There's so
imagine
much you can do.
exactly the team making the substance must have had a couple of days on set where they were like, what are we making? And then they see it all together and they're like, what did we make?
Oh
That's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
I love the genre. There's so much you can do, so many different subgenres that you can go into, different subjects that you can tackle. Just to wrap things up for you, Matthew, is there where can fans stay up to date with your work moving forward? And is there anything else that you'd just like to say about, the two projects that you have out right now?
oh my gosh, fans can follow me on Instagram at Matthew Finlan. I am on TikTok at Matthew Finlan, but I'm a lot less active there. But yeah, so follow me on Instagram and be sure to check out Hell of a Summer in theaters right now and also Ghosting season 2 and 1 available on YouTube in America and CBC Gem in Canada.
Well, hey, Matthew, as a fellow horror lover, a fellow paranormal lover, I just want to say it was wonderful getting to meet you today to talk about your couple projects that you got going on. And you are welcome back anytime in the future, man.
Thank you so much, Pat. When we need to investigate those bunkers, I'll let you know. Or when we come to do the Salem Witch Trials, I'll call you up.
Yeah, definitely reach out for sure. Thanks,
I
thanks,
will.
Matt.
Hey, I'm Matthew Finlan. I play Ezra in Hell of a Summer in theaters now, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.